Hello, coaches, and welcome to this edition of Give and Go Live. My name is David Newbury, and it's my pleasure to bring you the third in a series of activity designed for young players, this one called Battle of the Knights. And in this activity, we have two teams of knights that are battling to knock over the other team's castles. And to do so, they start at each end of the area and protecting 8 or more castles each. A castle is created with a ball and a cone, and that is balanced on each end of the area and spread out along the end line. The area here is a 30 by 20. You can make the area slightly bigger or slightly smaller depending on the age group and the ability of your players. I have created a 5-yard line at each end. This is the shooting line for each team. The team that is shooting cannot cross that line, otherwise their shot does not count if they knock down one of the balls off the castle. And we can create a story around this activity. The story here is that there are two rival families that are staking their claim on the throne. And of course, in my case, it's the throne of England, and that the objective is to win by knocking over the other family's castles and then to claim the throne. Both families will start sending their knights into battle with the objective of knocking all the castles down first. To begin with, in an unopposed environment, we send one group first. This time it's the white team. They've come forward, the white knights, and they've got as close as the shooting line. They can then shoot their soccer balls and try to knock down the ball off the cone. To start with, I've given every player a ball so they can all have an attempt. Only the balls that are off the castles can be used, and only each player can have one ball per attempt. And the idea is that they dribble forward, they shoot, and then once they've had their shot, they retreat, and then it's the other team's chance to have their shot. So here we see that very scenario, that the white team have had their shots, they've knocked over 3 of the balls, and now the blues are going down the other end, and they've also knocked over 3 of the balls off the cones. So they take it in turns until all the balls are knocked off. Now you could increase the intensity or challenge by adding a time limit. That's a good idea if the players seem to be taking forever to take their shot. And I would also say that a ball that is not moving when they shoot it is a ball that does not count if they knock over a castle. So again, we want to try and get the players to dribble and then shoot with the ball moving, as opposed to stopping it, taking 5 steps backwards and putting the finger in the air to see which way the wind's blowing and then taking a shot. Otherwise it will take too long and it loses some level of excitement. In the second sequence, some of the ways to make it more challenging, less challenging, is to let each team attack without defenders, as we see here. It is to reduce the number of castles. Maybe there's not 8 to hit over, maybe there's 3 or 4, and then to provide more time for the players to shoot. Alternatively, we can make it more challenging by adding a time limit, so they have to shoot within 10 seconds, otherwise their shot does not count. Add the shooting line, as we talked about before, and then play with both teams on the field, which we'll see in the next diagram. We can also reduce the number of balls that are being used in the first instance. So instead of every player having a ball, maybe there's 2 balls for each team to start off with, and then they can use the balls as they're knocked off the cones. And then lastly, the third sequence, we have that opposed environment, both teams defending, both teams attacking. Some players, like this player here, sneaking through without any opposition. Sometimes maybe there's a double team situation occurring. We talk to players about the importance of getting in behind, between the ball and the castle, so putting themselves in a good defensive position, putting pressure on the player in order to try and win the ball and to force a mistake. We can also talk about, of course, dribbling into space and possibly combining in order for a player in a more advanced and better position to take a shot. So there's lots of things that we can talk about in this activity. We should certainly also talk about the idea that maybe there's a defensive theme. So, we could huddle up with our teams and talk about, how do we stop a team just going straight away through and shooting at our castles? And maybe the solution is we have 2 or 3 players on defensive duties, and their job is to prevent the other team getting into that shooting position or shooting distance, and then when they win it, to pass the ball forward to their attacking players. So we can bring in lots of concepts that are deemed to be more advanced than some of the tactics in a very, very fun and exciting small-sided game. So I hope you've enjoyed this series of activities for young players, and you'll join me on the next edition of Give and Go Live.